49 white South Africans arrived just outside of Washington today on a U.S. chartered flight, granted citizenship status by the Trump administration. A surprise move because President Trump himself signed an executive order on day one of his presidency, suspending the refugee admissions program, quote, until such a time as the further entry into the United States of refugees aligns with the interests of the United States. So what makes these Afrikaners different from other refugees from war-torn countries like Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or Afghanistan, who have been waiting for years to get into the country?
Well, it's a big question, and it's a key question here. We know that the Trump administration suspended the refugee settlement program, saying that essentially we didn't have space for this. I want to read to you part of what their reasoning was at the time. They said the United States lacks the ability to absorb large numbers of migrants, and in particular refugees, into its communities. They went on to say that this really ensures the appropriate assimilation of refugees. But I've been talking to folks, and they say really this is about race, they think, especially some South Africans who fled after the apartheid and the racist regime there. I talked to some people who told me that they feel like this is the president essentially taking the side of people who are white over black refugees, including in places like Sudan and the Congo.
You know, I know that this is going to be, any adjustment in life, any change takes a while to get used to. But I want you all to know that you are really welcome here and that we respect what you have had to deal with these last few years. We respect the long tradition of your people and what you have accomplished over the years. And I am sure that you will be successful. It's, as you know, a lot of you think are farmers, right? When you have quality seeds, you can put them in foreign soil and they will blossom, they will bloom. And we are excited to welcome you here to our country where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will bloom and we will benefit alongside you. Thank you very much for coming here.
Yeah. I'd like to add, again, on behalf of President Trump, Secretary Noem, we're so grateful that you guys are here. Everybody within DHS, we've been so excited to be able to get you guys here to process, to vet, everything, so you guys get a really warm start. After all I was tracking your flight, 12 hours, you were last night. I'm like, oh my God. So thank you for just the patience of being able to get here. Very similar to Chris, as our Secretary Landau, is that my wife came from Iran, same thing, persecution from Christianity, and she's come here. She now speaks 5 languages. She's a school teacher. She's a great American story, and we just so grateful. I wanted to come and make sure that we greet you guys, we meet you, give our contact information to you, and if there's anything that we could do.
Trump's acceptance of Afrikaners as refugees into the United States is an assault across many fronts. It's an assault on the global and the U.S. refugee system. It is an assault on South Africa and U.S. relations. And it is also an important signal to the world about where the U.S. stands on questions of race, on equity. This is fundamentally a message Trump is trying to send, not so much to the world, but to the American population, that white people are being persecuted around the world, that Christians are being persecuted around the world, and that he is the savior of those people for the United States and globally. This will hurt South Africa in some ways. It's certainly going to affect trade. It might affect the reputation, but I think most of the world knows that this is a fiction, this is an absurdity, and it is deeply, deeply offensive on many, many levels.
Well, aren't these just the healthiest looking refugees I've ever seen? The most nourished, the most well kept, the cleanest, most well dressed refugees I've ever seen. I've never seen such stunningly healthy, good looking refugees in my life. Thank God America offered them refuge from South Africa. Thank God. They looked like they could not have even stood another day there. Thank God.
When I say certain people have the complexion for protection, this is what I mean. These are the white South African refugees that are coming to the United States after Elon Musk lied and spread misinformation on Twitter, saying that these white South Africans were experiencing G-side by the political party in charge. Here's the timeline of events. On July 31st, 2023, Elon Musk tweets they are openly pushing for G-side of white people in South Africa. Then he tags the president of South Africa and says, "Why do you say nothing?" So as you can see, Elon Musk has been fueling this fire and spreading this misinformation for fucking years now. Fast forward, Elon Musk spends $300 million getting Donald Trump elected. Donald Trump wins. And the first day in office, January 20th, 2025, when he gets inaugurated, Trump signs an executive order ending the refugee admissions program. An executive order that basically says the United States lacks the ability to absorb large number of migrants, and in particular, refugees, because of the availability of resources for Americans. Essentially declaring that the refugees coming to the United States were competing for resources against Americans. Elon Musk then uses the power of being in Trump's ear all the fucking time and up his ass and turns Trump against South Africa. Even though the claims of white G-side are ruled not real by a South African court, literally 4 days later signs an executive order called Addressing Egregious Actions in the Republic of South Africa, where he cuts off all funding to South Africa. Then he fast-tracks white South African citizenship while rejecting all other refugees. Here's where the story gets better. Here's where I say that they had the complexion for protection, because these white South Africans are descendants of mainly Dutch and French colonial settlers who first came to South Africa more than 300 years ago. They were at the heart of the apartheid government that systematically oppressed non-whites. Yeah, they're the ones who get to come here on an air-conditioned plane, walking through the airport, welcome to the United States, given flags for a fucking photo op. Meanwhile, the Afghan refugees who helped the U.S. military during the U.S. military operations in Afghanistan are in dangerous limbo after the Trump administration ordered a pause on the refugee resettlement program. Meanwhile, this is how Black Haitian immigrants are welcomed to the United States. Meanwhile, other refugee populations that are non-white, this is how they come to the United States. I'm not saying that motherfuckers gotta look like their story or look like they struggled, but there's a clear differentiation between people who have valid concerns, valid refugee claims, and seeking asylum versus these motherfuckers that are coming in shorts and look like they're well-fed and look like they have good clothes on their fucking backs. And if you really want to deconstruct all the fucking hypocrisy all the fucking way, why is it that the reason that the U.S. refugee resettlement program was scrapped was because the refugees were competing for resources against Americans, yet the literal website that's helping them resettle into the United States is openly saying that these white South Africans are going to receive financial assistance, a one-time federal grant, $1,275 per person, cash assistance, supplemental nutrition assistance program, food assistance, food stamps, housing assistance, medical assistance, work and employment support. And to top it all off, they won't have to even prove that they were being persecuted. The complexion for motherfucking protection.
Do you think that this group of white South Africans should be considered refugees or not? Because, fun fact, they're actually the only refugees that America has allowed into the country since Trump took office. They've completely suspended their refugee program and even denied entry to people from war zones. So why did they accept 59 people from South Africa today? Well, some claim there is a genocide taking place in South Africa against white farmers in particular, and that the government recently passed laws that allows them to legally take land from white farmers at their discretion. Many white farmers claim that they are being politically and racially persecuted. Donald Trump himself has used these claims when being asked why he's granted them entry when he's refused others.
Farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me.
The South African government, on the other hand, disagrees with these claims, saying a refugee is someone being politically, religiously, or economically persecuted. They are not. Rather, South Africa's president said that the white minority make up the wealthiest in the country, earning on average more than 3 times as much as black South Africans. And according to a government 2017 land audit report, despite only making up roughly 7% of the population, white South Africans own 72% of South Africa's private farmland, while black South Africans make up more than 90% of the country's population, but only hold 4% of all privately owned land. In addition to this, a South African court recently ruled that the claims of white genocide in the country was, quote, clearly purely imagined and not real. However, the nuance there is that it doesn't mean that farm attacks and murders don't happen, because data from civil rights organizations show that they clearly do. But whether they constitute a genocide or even widespread racially motivated killings is heavily contended. In fact, the decision to class them as refugees is so divisive that it's got the freaking church picking sides. In a massive move, the Episcopal Church just terminated their 40-year-long partnership with the US government on refugee resettlement, saying that it refuses to support Trump's decision to prioritize white Afrikaners over other refugees. So the question is, what do you think?
I just saw a video of the Amerikaner refugees landing in Washington, and I have to say, I've never in my life seen refugees look so good. I mean, damn, those people were dripped out, they look fed, but they're running from what exactly? Potholes and bad Wi-Fi. Well, moral of the story, those refugees they look ready for the American life. They even, some of them even showed up in khaki, in shorts, because they know it was summer that side. They have to show off their boerebene. But it's fine, guys. Let's keep our popcorn handy so that we can watch this unfold, because I'm telling you guys, we're gonna get something huge is gonna happen. I've already saw the African Americans are not happy with this. I can't wait for them to start bashing these Amerikaners.
Hi, I'm applying for refugee status in the US. Sir, you know that refugee status is only open to white Afrikaners. Yes, that is why I'm applying. What is your name, sir? Anton. Trotse Afrikaanse naam. So tell us about the horrors you face in South Africa. Okay, so I just want to give you a trigger warning. But in January, Woolworths was for almost 2 weeks completely out of avocados. Yeah, we were having to eat like guacamole. Terrible things are happening in South Africa. So you are a boer. What farming skills do you bring to the US? So I harvest organic fruit and vegetables at the Oranjezicht market. So I would say I'm more high-end level of farming, not so much in the nuts and bolts and the planting. I'm more the selecting of vegetables, yeah. Do you have any dependents? I don't have any dependents, but I am dependent on Mandisa, my domestic worker. So I've been speaking to her, and she and I were saying probably not New York, would like to go to Los Angeles. You sort of look Hispanic. I don't think you're white. Mexican. You know what? And I've got nothing against Mexicans. You know what? Fuck you. I'm staying. Sir, we are not racist.
Right, class, settle. Okay, everybody open your books. We're going to start on page 32. We're going to start with the Great Tsek of 2025. Okay, who can tell me when in 2025 did the Great Tsek happen? Ja, Kobus. That's right. May 2025. Very good. All right, and who wants to tell me what was the impetus, like what started the Great Tsek? Why did it happen? Ja, Ntokozo. Yes, because the Voortsekkers were not happy with equality and they were trying to victimize themselves, and then they tried to commit treason and it didn't work, and they accidentally ended up with refugee status instead. Very good. Take a gold star. That's a very in-depth answer. Good for you. I can see you've been studying. Okay, next. Who wants to tell me why so many people were so angry at the Voortsekkers for the Great Tsek of 2025? Yeah, Mark. Listen, we've talked about your language before. I mean, technically, because they took the rest of the world for a... is not incorrect, but see me after class for your language.